All right, we got to put some protection down. That's what we're doing. Wax or polish, everything you need to know in this video.
Yeah, this is an interesting topic. For some of you seasoned guys, this is obvious. For some of you beginners, we get this question a lot more than you and I thought we would, is do I just put wax on a machine and I'm gonna take out all my damage and I'm ready to go? There's a fundamental difference. Wax is a protection. Spray sealants are a protection. Ceramic coatings are a protection. These are all protection steps. Polish is to actually remove scratches, swirls. We got a bunch of water spots here, which we'll tackle on the next video. But here's the thing. If you're confused, just think about this. Is it protection or is it correction? Correcting things out of the paint, removing scratches, removing swirls, removing light water spots, whatever the case may be, that is polishing. That is paint correction. Compound, polish, AIOs, those types of things have some type of corrective quality, some more than others, but a wax has no correction qualities. And I think a lot of times we take for granted, if you're out there and you already know this, you know this. But there's a lot of people getting their start, 40 years old, 50 years old, 20 years old, doesn't matter, that have this question.
And it doesn't really even matter. Even those old guys that are thinking, you know, that old wax, right? And the young guys are joking about the Mr. Miyagi and all that stuff, right? But that wax that we used to do, the new wax, more the spray waxes that people will go and put on, either way, people still want to know, hey, wax or polish, what's everything I need to know about the difference? So number one to start off, hey, protect versus correct.
Yep. And again, a wax is in the same family as ceramic coating, whether you want to believe it or not. They're different chemistries, but they're protection steps, okay? Paint protection film is in the same family. It's a protection step. Now, there's levels of protection, just like there's levels of correction. If you want to go for a perfect car, that level of correction takes a ton of experience, a ton of time, sanding usually. Again, there's levels to all of this, but for anybody wondering about wax or polish, you only use a wax as a protective step. Polish needs to be used to correct some minor imperfections and things in the paint. I think it's as simple as that, but I understand that a lot of people are confused. After this little conversation, I think everybody knows where we stand.
Yeah, we hope so. What are we going to do? We're going to wax or we're going to polish?
Well, because we have damage, when we did our full decontamination wash and fuego and clay bar, what happened is we figured out that the dealership was covering up quite a bit of imperfections. Mm-hmm. So could we go into a protective step? Absolutely we could. We could use a wax, we could use a sealant, a coating, we could PPF this car. This customer wants the car in a little bit better shape, so we're going to polish the car. We're not going to put a protection step down until we go through the polishing phase.
Okay, so let's talk about then, we're going to define out, because we want to make sure we know everything, okay? We get it that that's the wax. Wax can do the protection, but now we get into polishing.
Yep.
Polishing could be considered an old school term where people talk, what we just said about glazing. It could put something to cover it up.
Yep.
So we're correcting.
Yep.
Inside of correction, people start to get a little, right? I'm a two-step correction, three-step only. Yep. I do this, and this is where the great one. Like everybody wants to know, when working and correcting a vehicle, what tools do I need, right? And then you go, oh, did you see that new polisher that came out?
Yep.
Which one?
Exactly.
I mean, there's all kinds of tools. There's a new polisher, it seems like, on a regular basis. So if we want to know everything about polishing, let's get into more of that too.
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal. You'll hear a lot of people say the words paint enhancement, one-step correction.
Listen, I was a paint, I loved that term years ago and really tried to push it when we've talked about stuff.
Yeah, so paint enhancement, one-step correction, two-step correction, sanding and correction. You have a lot of different things that you can do to a car. That is all based on what you want out of the car. If you're a professional, what's your customer paying for, right? If you're a DIYer, how comfortable you are doing these steps. I would say most DIYers are not sanding any cars, so that's kind of out. And we have to talk about manufacturers. What are manufacturers really doing with paint systems now? Very thin, very little margin of error.
Car manufacturers.
Yeah, car manufacturers are leaving very little paint on the surface. And so your clear coat, once it's gone, it's gone. Okay, there is no going back, there is no adding, there is none of that. So you got to be careful. That's why we would push most people, beginners, to enhancement, one-step correction type of work.
Everything I need to know about polishing a car, does that include me getting out a meter, right? We see this on social media a lot. Everybody wants to meter every section, and do I really need that?
Yeah, I mean, to feel, if you're working on lots of cars and lots of different cars, a paint depth gauge is valuable. Is it as valuable as everybody says? That's the question. Is it going to be, am I going to buy something for $200-300 and it's going to be entirely accurate? The answer is no. Is it going to give us a rough estimate? Yes, it is. Okay, so that has some value to it. If you're going to be correcting a lot, get a paint depth gauge. Make sure you're checking what's going on. Especially if you're a professional, a lot of times you can send those reports to your customers so they know that you took that step. They're just kind of oversold at times that they're the full answer. And we know that something that costs a couple $100 is not insanely accurate when you're talking about judging a paint system, but it's nice to get some type of general idea.
So let's say I don't want to go that far, but I bought the vehicle, I brought it home. I care for the vehicle that I've just started to go through it. You talked about, I've got enhancement, I've got one step, I got two step, I've got full correction, I got part correction. There's all these terms that people throw out. And I love the people that message in or leave comments so that they want to define out the way they do it.
Yeah.
Right? And I love that. What would we want to say is the overall difference between correction and enhancement? Or is there none? Are they the same thing?
Well, enhancement on a vehicle like this size is going to take about an hour. When you start talking about really removing defects, you're into hours upon hours upon hours. A really thorough one-step correction on this for an experienced guy is 4 hours.
All right, you just mentioned the term, one-step correction.
Yep. So one-step correction is I'm going to use a little bit heavier polish, or a little bit heavier pad. I'm going to get some real cut, and I'm going to be able to see a difference, somewhere between 50 all the way up to 80% difference in the paint.
And that's not an enhancement.
No, an enhancement to me, and this is my take, is you're probably removing some oxidation, you're going to brighten the paint up, you're going to remove some minor imperfections and things like that, but you're definitely not going into any type of correction where you're really pulling out massive amounts of defects.
Now, we use the word, hey, wax or polish, everything you need to know. Do I then, as an enhancement, I'm only using polish and I'm not using compound?
I would not use any compound in an enhancement because, again, you could leave hazing behind. You're just trying to brighten up the paintwork.
What pad, right? If I'm thinking of pads and I'm doing an enhancement, okay, I'm going to use a polish that doesn't have a lot of abrasives.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to use what type of pad?
I'm going to use a softer pad, something that's probably a little bit. Finishing pad is a term that gets thrown around a lot. We have a finishing pad in our store. That'd be a great thing to do an enhancement. It's going to remove the oxidation, take minor imperfections out, but you're not taking, we have water spots here. An enhancement's not going to take these water spots out. We're going to have to do some cutting, right? And polish and pad combination allows us to cut some of this out, or all of it out. And again, compound lets you cut even more of it out. And so you gotta weigh what is going on with your car, what you're comfortable with, and again, if you're a professional, what's somebody paying for.
All right, so you mentioned compound even more. So that is two-step?
Yeah, two-step correction, right? So what you would do is you'd have a wool pad or a microfiber cutting pad. You'd go in here with a compound.
Was that rotary? Is that those guys that we see? I'm a rotary guy, and they went...
Yeah, I mean, look, that is the most efficient way that I've found to do a compound step. Again, the comfort level for most people now is putting a wool pad, a microfiber pad on a DA. It works just fine. Is it going to remove as quickly? Is it going to remove as fast? Is it going to be able to cut and be, a little bit more precise? No. I mean, a rotary is a skill that if you're going to be a professional, you should take seriously. Okay, you can finish with a rotary, you can cut with a rotary, you should have it in your arsenal. We saw a big push for about 10, 12 years around car care and detailing where nobody was using a rotary except for the top echelon guys. We're starting to see it come back now and starting to see that people understand that a rotary is not a negative. Rotary is a very, very good tool, but you got to know how to use it. Otherwise, you're going to sling stuff all over, you're going to get it all over yourself, you're going to possibly burn some edges. It's not something to be scared of, but you know, if I'm going to do a heavy 2-step, heavy 3-step, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put some compound in a rotary and go to work. But do I know shops that are doing really great work that have removed all the rotaries and do 2 steps with a DA? Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't mean you have to use a rotary. I would suggest learning it if this is something you care about and you want to chase professionally. It's very valuable. But there's all kinds of people that have gone just to at their shop with a bunch of employees using a DA system. The point is you're using a compound and some type of cutting pad to really, really hammer away at this paint and get things down to a point where you barely see any defects anymore.
All right, you mentioned some type of cutting pad. All right, so let's bring out a couple polishers and people are gonna weigh in on their opinions of which polish you should use. This is why I said the joke earlier. It's everybody, there's some type of new polish. Hey, you got this new polish. Like, we could put out a video and we'll do them talking about this. And they'll say, hey, you should just use this polisher. Yep. You should use this tool. Hey, you see that new one from so-and-so. Love that there's always new ones. Love that there's new technology. Love, you know, we got a couple different ones. These are battery. You've got some, if you want to go back into the old bullpen in a sense. We got Max the Jeweler, old school right here. This is a polisher we came out with a long time ago, and you know, it's a corded polisher.
Yep.
Why go battery? Why go cord? Which direction should you go?
Yeah, you go with what you're comfortable with. Obviously, we see a lot of people. This is the Milwaukee. Rupes has released a battery. Flex has battery. You know, you're holding a Ryobi there that we were sent by Ryobi. All of these things have a place, okay? If you're comfortable with battery, you like how it works, obviously not having to deal with a cord is nice. What we know is that guys that are doing heavy correction are probably going to stay away from using battery very much because most rotaries are underpowered if they're battery, and these guys want power, they know how to control it. So again, it's not about right and wrong. Everybody has an opinion. There's people that are die-hard Flex, die-hard Rupes. There's a bunch of people that thinks this is the best battery operated tool out there. There's plenty of people that are going to tell you the new Rupes is. Guys, to me, it's time behind the machine, right? So if you're a forced rotation Flex guy, the only way you're going to get good with it is to use it. And then when you use it a lot, you're going to find it hard to go to a Rupes. But if you use a Rupes for 100 straight hours, you're going to find it hard to go to a Flex. And so I don't have a preference, truthfully. I like Flex tools. I've used a lot of Flex tools. I like forced rotation. I'm very comfortable. I have a bunch of Rupes in my business. This is the only time I use Milwaukee is when I'm here at HQ. I don't have enough time with this. I don't like all the extra battery weight, thinking about, you know, using this all day. Would I love it? Maybe I would learn to love it. I learned how to manipulate it, obviously. But part of the battery problem is the weight of the battery, right? You're having, you're really noticing how these things are balanced. And again, anybody that tells me one tool's better than the other just hasn't used a lot of tools. One tool's better than the other because you like it. You enjoy it. It's something that works for you.
And that really is where you should go, right? So people are going to leave comments or opinions on what they do. And listen, I've bought a polisher everybody loved. I used it for a couple times, and you know, my story is I wanted to throw it against the wall.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it wasn't for me. When we gave feedback to Ryobi about this, I specifically talked about the trigger or this button mechanism. That's the part of me that I didn't enjoy, but you don't like the lack of power, which you would say, right? I don't mind the lack of power. I'm okay with it. I find everything else about this tool, you know, perfect for me.
Yeah.
I'm good.
And again, are you going to do heavy correction with that Ryobi?
Probably not.
Probably not. Right? This can handle heavier correction than that. So there's a place. You know, we got guys in the marine world. They got a place for all of these things. And so for beginners out there, you don't want to limit yourself. You want to find what works with your style. But your style is going to be defined by the tool you choose to get behind the most, right? And for most guys, I'd say I'd push you to start with a forced rotation. It's a little bit more forgiving. You're not having to wonder if it's spinning. You know, it's not a free spinning tool, it's gear driven. You have to ask yourself these things. Again, if you can start on a rotary and learn from somebody on a rotary, that's the top of the top to learn on, in my opinion, because it teaches you all kinds of good habits.
You know, and things do happen to tools, things do go on, and you know, a lot of people wonder, and people would even take, maybe I like this tool from this place because it's made at this place, right?
Sure.
And they'll list the country. Well, it's manufactured so-and-so. It's manufactured in this country. A big reason why we wanted out of the tool business and to straight to chemical business is for bringing back more American manufacturing into car care and being here in America manufacturing chemicals. So if you support that, hey, go click subscribe on this video, and hey, let's continue that journey as we're taking back, in a sense, American manufacturing to America.
Yeah, well,
great tools, but hey, we don't know where they come from.
Yeah, and like I said, choose what you like. Don't get caught up in what somebody tells you. Test them out. You'll find what works for you.
Yeah.